We support a two-state solution that guarantees security and stability for both the Israeli and Palestinian people. We must give the people of the West Bank and Gaza the political perspective of a credible route to a Palestinian state and a new future, and it needs to be irreversible. This is not entirely in our gift. However, Britain and our partners can help by confirming our commitment to a sovereign, viable Palestinian state. On recognition, this cannot come at the start of the process, but it does not have to be the very end of the process. Our long-standing position has been that we will recognise a Palestinian state at a time that is most conducive to the peace process.
What is happening in West Bank is illegal, is in violation of international laws. And yet, she doesn't have a courage, the UK doesn't have a courage to condemn Israel.
There is a devastating and growing humanitarian crisis in Gaza. Gazans need more aid, and they need it now. We welcome Israel's commitments to fully open Ashdod port and the Erez checkpoint. I'd like to address the ongoing settlement expansion and demolition of Palestinian properties in the occupied Palestinian territories. We are clear that settlements are illegal under international law and once again urge Israel to halt settlement expansion immediately.
So, two major developments. Israel has reportedly carried out a missile strike in Iran. Iran has downplayed the impact. America doesn't want to get involved, so therefore American Secretary of State Anthony Blinken has said that USA had nothing to do with it and USA was not even involved in this and has urged the parties for de-escalation.
I'm not going to speak to that, except to say that the United States has not been involved in any offensive operations. What we're focused on, what the G7 is focused on, and again, it's reflected in our statement and in our conversation, is our work to de-escalate tensions, to de-escalate from any potential conflict. You saw Israel on the receiving end of an unprecedented attack, but our focus has been on, of course, making sure that Israel can effectively defend itself, but also de-escalating tensions, avoiding conflict, and that remains our focus.
So that is where we stand. We can have a separate video on the broader double standard of the Western countries on Israel and Iran. But right now, the topic that I'm keen to talk about is what happened at the United Nations Security Council last night. If you know that the United Nations Security Council debated and voted on the Palestinian application for a full membership, therefore the full statehood. That has been pending for many years. And nobody was bothered to take action on that. In the wake of what is happening in Gaza and West Bank, the United Nations Security Council decided to debate and vote on it. As expected, the USA vetoed it and our own UK abstained.
I shall now put the draft resolution to the vote. Will those in favour of the draft resolution contained in document S/2024/312 please raise their hand? Those against? Thank you. Abstentions? The result of the vote is as follows: 12 votes in favour, 1 vote against, 2 abstentions. The draft resolution has not been adopted owing to the negative vote of a permanent member of the Council.
They abstained along with Switzerland. 12 countries voted in favour, including France. But then the UK and Switzerland abstained, which had zero bearing on the outcome of the vote. USA, being the monster country that it is, and being the supporter of a genocidal regime that it is, being the cheerleader of everything that stand against humanity that it is, it had to vote against the application. Because a permanent member vetoes, the application had to be defeated. Application could not be adopted. But then what struck me was the speech given by the UK ambassador at the United Nations, Barbara Woodward. We have talked about how disgraceful and wicked and evil American ambassador to United Nations has been. And many of you thought that I was picking on her because of her race. And my argument is that to be evil or wicked has nothing to do with your color of skin or with your ethnicity. It has nothing to do. So do not take the shelter behind your ethnicity and race and the color of your skin to hide your complicity with genocide and war crimes. You cannot do that. We are living in 2024. I have said it time and again. People are smart enough to see your true colors. So do not even try to hide behind your race or the ethnicity or the color of skin. This woman who represents United Kingdom at the United Nations is a white woman. She's not black, and yet she shares exactly the same qualities of her American counterpart. And that was evident in her speech. Now, as a country, you can take a stand whether you want to grant a Palestinian statehood or not, or whether you are happy to be treated like a doormat, or some of you said toilet paper, by Israel. That's your choice. You have ceased to be a superpower. You are just enjoying the privilege accorded to you, in the immediate aftermath of the Second World War. So you are the permanent member, so there are certain powers that they enjoy. But for all the practical purposes, you are not a superpower. Nobody takes you seriously anymore. Your economy is nosediving. A large group of your population is reeling under poverty. Your health system, your crown jewel, once a crown jewel, is crumbling. As I speak, I'm still waiting just to see a doctor. And I've been waiting for last 3 months, and I've been told that I can't expect to see a doctor, a specialist doctor, until August. You know what? I come from India. I could have seen the same specialist by paying just £20 at any given point. So the countries that you ruled are surging ahead of you. So don't be under any false impression that you are a superpower. So coming back to this lady, she made a very short speech to justify why UK will not be voting in favor of the Palestinian application. And you know what? How she started? She started by condemning Iranian attack or Iranian retaliatory attack on Israel over the weekend, 7 days ago. There was already a special session of the Security Council to discuss that. And yet this woman deemed it fit to start her talk by condemning Iran. And in her condemnation, there was no mention of Israeli attack on Iranian embassy in Syria. So she was quick to condemn Iran for the retaliation, but absolutely no mention of what prompted Iran to carry out the retaliatory attacks.
Let me start by reiterating that the UK condemns, in the strongest terms, Iran's unprecedented attack against Israel, as well as its violation of Jordan and Iraq's airspace. The UK continues to call for de-escalation and remains steadfast in our commitment to protecting and upholding stability in the region. Iran's actions do nothing to advance the prospects for peace in Israel and Gaza.
Then she goes on immediately. You would have thought that, okay, she's going in a reverse order. Maybe she's condemning the country for the retaliation, and then she'll come to the country for starting that conflict. But no, she forgot that. Then she goes on to condemn Hamas for what Hamas did on the 7th of October.
The UK condemns the October 7 attacks unequivocally and calls for the unconditional and immediate release of all the hostages. The United Kingdom remains resolved to work with international partners to urgently secure an immediate pause to get aid in and hostages out, and then progress to a permanent, sustainable ceasefire without a return to fighting and loss of life. We also urgently call for the full implementation of Resolution 2720 to protect civilians and enable humanitarian assistance.
And again forgot what Israel has done since then by killing more than 33,000 people, including 17,000 children, babies. 70% of them are children, babies and women. But she turned a blind eye. Absolutely no mention in her speech. Then she goes on to talk about why UK cannot support an application for a full statehood. And you know what she says? She would say that cannot happen at the beginning of a peace process. That cannot happen at the end of the peace process.
We support a two-state solution that guarantees security and stability for both the Israeli and Palestinian people. We must give the people of the West Bank and Gaza the political perspective of a credible route to a Palestinian state and a new future. And it needs to be irreversible. This is not entirely in our gift. However, Britain and our partners can help by confirming our commitment to a sovereign, viable Palestinian state. On recognition, this cannot come at the start of the process, but it does not have to be the very end of the process. Our long-standing position has been that we will recognise a Palestinian state at a time that is most conducive to the peace process.
It will happen at the time which she says most conducive to peace process. Now, where is the peace process, by the way? When did the peace process start? Do we have any peace process right now? Is UK capable of convincing Israel to come on the negotiating table? Does UK have that power? Does UK have the wherewithal? UK could not even convince Israel to open a land corridor so that the aid materials could be transported. And this country lives in a fallacy to say that the statehood can be given at the most conducive time during the peace process, when we know there is no peace process. So essentially what she's saying is that Palestinians who have lived as refugees for last 70, 80 years will have to continue to live like refugees for the, God knows, not foreseeable future, but endlessly. Because A, there is no peace process right now. She cannot guarantee, she doesn't even have the power. Her country doesn't have a power to ensure a timeline for a peace process. So therefore, those 2.5 million people will continue to be stateless even in the future. How do you become so shameless? I know some of you said that, well, they are only ambassadors, they are only diplomats, they are following the orders. By the way, following orders cannot be an excuse if the matter goes to The Hague. You will be equally complicit in the war crime. Unless you yourself are disgusting, unless you yourself believe in that kind of inhuman and genocidal policies, you cannot utter these things with straight face. Then she goes on to talk about, and by the way, up until now, she has not found any opportunity or any reason to condemn Israel. She's thanking Israel. She's welcoming Israel for opening the land corridor. After forcing more than 2 million population to starvation, she's now found an opportunity to thank Israel.
There is a devastating and growing humanitarian crisis in Gaza. Gazans need more aid, and they need it now. We welcome Israel's commitments to fully open Ashdod port and the Erez checkpoint.
Then she goes on to talk about the conflict and the settler violence in West Bank. West Bank doesn't have Hamas, and yet, hundreds of people have been brutally killed by Israeli army, which consists of thugs, sociopaths, terrorists. So she talks about settler violence, right? And then you thought, oh, this is where she would condemn Israel. But no, even here, the word she's using, we urge Israel.
I'd like to address the ongoing settlement expansion and demolition of Palestinian properties in the occupied Palestinian territories. We are clear that settlements are illegal under international law and once again urge Israel to halt settlement expansion immediately.
I have said, it's very difficult to maintain sanity in the face of this, nonsensical utterances. It's not easy to be a journalist. It's not easy to be going through all those videos and bringing the analysis to you. It really tests your mental health. So she's using the term, we urge Israel. What is happening in West Bank is illegal, is in violation of international laws. And yet, she doesn't have a courage, the UK doesn't have a courage to condemn Israel. I mean, we are not just talking about one shameless person, it's the bunch of shameless individuals leading the country. Now, choice is yours. Do you think that you have the right to call yourself civilized? Do you have the right to call yourself developed? You are neither civilized nor developed. You are plunging these individuals, these shameless politicians have plunged the country into the zone that would soon be deemed as third world country. And not to mention your complicity in genocide. Time to reflect. Thank you very much for watching this video. If you haven't subscribed to my channel, please do so, because that's one of the many ways you can support independent journalism. God bless you all.